Racist woman insults. Black soldier on plane next day. She sees news and realizes she made a mistake. The airport was buzzing with the usual chaos of travelers hurrying to their gates, the din of announcements echoing overhead. Staff Sergeant Marcus Wright, a decorated black soldier, stood in line to board his flight. His heart was heavy, his thoughts consumed by his 7-year-old daughter Layla, who had been admitted to the ICU the night before with a mysterious and rapidly worsening illness. But before we dive into what happens next, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from today? Drop a comment below. Marcus had been deployed overseas, and the emergency call had sent him into a frenzy. With the help of his commanding officer, he had managed to secure emergency leave and book the next available flight home. The uniform he wore wasn't just his pride, but a visual testament to the sacrifices he had made for his country. Yet as he stood there, exhausted and anxious, he had no idea he was about to face a different kind of battle. The boarding gate was crowded, with passengers jostling for position. Just ahead of Marcus stood an older white woman, impeccably dressed in designer clothing and holding a Louis Vuitton handbag. Her sharp gaze scanned Marcus from head to toe, and her lips curled into a scornful sneer. When they began boarding, Marcus stepped forward to the priority line, courtesy of his active duty status. As he reached the gate, the woman turned sharply, blocking his path. "Excuse me, but this line is for people who actually belong here," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Marcus remained calm, his voice steady. "Ma'am, I'm active duty military. This is the priority boarding line." She scoffed loudly, drawing the attention of nearby passengers. "Oh, I see. Another one of those handouts. You people always find a way to take advantage, don't you? Maybe if you stayed in Africa, you wouldn't need to be here taking up space." The air seemed to freeze. Several passengers gasped, while others looked away uncomfortably. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he took a deep breath. Years of discipline and self-control had prepared him for moments like this. "Ma'am, I'm just trying to get home to my daughter," he said, his voice firm but measured. "She's very sick, and I don't have time for this." The woman snorted and muttered loudly enough for others to hear. "Probably just another excuse to get special treatment. Typical." Marcus clenched his fists but refused to escalate the situation. The gate agent, visibly uncomfortable, stepped in and waved Marcus through, apologizing for the delay. As Marcus walked past the woman, he could feel the weight of her disdainful glare. Once on the plane, Marcus settled into his seat, a middle row in coach. He leaned his head back, closed his eyes, and tried to focus on Layla. Her laughter, her bright eyes, he needed to hold on to those memories to push through his anxiety. Unbeknownst to Marcus, the woman had been seated in first class. She spent the entire flight venting her frustration to the passenger beside her, making snide remarks about entitled people and how this country is going downhill. The next day, the woman's world was turned upside down. She was scrolling through the morning news on her phone when a headline caught her attention. "Heroic soldier rushes home to save his daughter after harrowing deployment." Asterisk, asterisk. Intrigued, she clicked on the article and was greeted by a photo of Marcus in his uniform, standing tall with medals pinned to his chest. The article detailed Marcus's journey, how he had saved his fellow soldiers during a dangerous mission overseas, earning him a Medal of Valor, how he had selflessly served his country for over a decade, and how he was now racing against time to be with his critically ill daughter. The woman's breath caught in her throat as she read. Her mind flashed back to the airport, her cutting words, and Marcus's calm, restrained response. Guilt washed over her like a tidal wave. She hadn't just insulted a man, she had insulted a hero, a father fighting to be there for his little girl. As the story continued to go viral, social media lit up with messages of support for Marcus. People praised his composure and bravery, and some even shared videos of the altercation at the gate, which other passengers had recorded. The woman's face wasn't visible in the clips, but she knew what she had done. Unable to shake her shame, she reached out to the airline, asking if they could pass a letter of apology to Marcus. She poured her heart into the note, acknowledging her ignorance and expressing her deep regret. She even donated a substantial amount to a veterans organization in his honor. Meanwhile, Marcus was by Layla's side in the hospital. Her condition had stabilized, and doctors were optimistic about her recovery. Holding her tiny hand in his, Marcus felt a profound sense of gratitude, not for the woman's apology, which he would later receive, but for the resilience of his daughter and the support of those who had uplifted him in his time of need. As for the woman, she vowed to confront her prejudices and educate herself about the experiences of others. The encounter had shattered her worldview, forcing her to see the humanity she had once dismissed. Though she could never undo her words, she hoped her actions moving forward would reflect the lessons she had learned, that respect and empathy are the true markers of character, and ignorance has no place in a world built by the sacrifices of others. Days after Marcus's story had made headlines, he sat in the hospital room next to Layla's bed. She was recovering well, her cheeks regaining their rosy hue, and her laughter, weak but genuine, began to fill the room again. Marcus couldn't help but smile as she told him stories about her favorite cartoons, momentarily forgetting the whirlwind of events that had brought him home. During one quiet afternoon, as Marcus was reading Layla a story, his phone buzzed with a notification. He glanced at the screen and saw an email from an unfamiliar address. Curious, he opened it. It was a message from the woman at the airport. Her words were filled with remorse. She described how ashamed she felt after seeing his story in the news, acknowledging the cruel irony of her accusations. "You've sacrificed so much for this country, and I repaid you with ignorance and hate," the email read. "I'm deeply sorry for my words and actions. They were inexcusable. I hope one day you can forgive me." Marcus sat back, his eyes scanning the email several times. He could sense the sincerity in her words, yet he felt conflicted. Her apology didn't erase the sting of her remarks, nor did it undo the years of subtle and overt discrimination he had faced. But Marcus was not a man driven by resentment. He closed the email without replying, deciding he needed time to think about how or if he would respond. The following week, Marcus returned to the gym to work out some of the stress that had built up over Layla's illness. As he was lifting weights, a man approached him, extending a hand. "Staff Sergeant Wright, right?" the man asked, his voice full of admiration. "That's me," Marcus said cautiously, shaking the man's hand. "I just wanted to say thank you for your service and for how you handled yourself at the airport. I was there that day and I saw everything. The way you stayed calm, the way you carried yourself. It was inspiring." Marcus nodded, not entirely sure how to respond. He wasn't used to being recognized in public, let alone praised for something that had felt like just another battle in a long line of them. The man continued, "I'm the regional manager for this gym chain. If you ever need anything, membership, personal training sessions, you name it, it's on us. It's the least we can do." Though Marcus was hesitant, the offer felt genuine. He accepted with a polite smile, grateful for the kindness. Meanwhile, the woman from the airport had not stopped thinking about Marcus. She had started attending community events focused on bridging racial divides and educating herself about systemic inequality. She even began volunteering with organizations that supported veterans and their families. One day, as Marcus was taking Layla to a park to celebrate her recovery, he noticed a familiar figure sitting on a bench nearby. It was the woman, though she looked different, less polished, more subdued. She wasn't wearing designer clothes or carrying an expensive bag. Instead, she was dressed modestly, her hair tied back, her face free of makeup. She noticed him too and hesitated before approaching. "Sergeant Wright," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't expect to see you here." Marcus turned to face her, his expression unreadable. Layla clung to his hand, looking up curiously at the woman. "I've been wanting to speak to you," the woman continued. "I wasn't sure if you got my email, but I wanted to say, in person, how truly sorry I am. For everything." Marcus studied her for a long moment, then glanced down at Layla, who was watching the exchange with wide eyes. "This is my daughter, Layla," Marcus said, his tone neutral. The woman crouched down, offering a small smile. "Hi, Layla. Your dad's a hero, you know? Layla beamed, looking up at Marcus. I know, she said proudly. The woman stood back up, her eyes brimming with tears. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm trying to be better. I hope you know that. Marcus nodded slowly. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook, he said. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment. I hope you find what you're looking for. With that, he walked away, holding Layla's hand tightly. As they left, Marcus felt a sense of closure. He wasn't sure if the woman would truly change, but he realized it wasn't his responsibility to ensure she did. His focus was on his daughter, his career, and the life he was building, one rooted in strength, dignity, and the unwavering belief that his worth was never tied to someone else's prejudice. And as the sun set over the park that evening, Marcus knew he had won, not just the battle at the airport, but the fight for his peace. Drop a comment if you enjoyed this story. It doesn't cost you anything, and you'll make me very happy. Thank you, and I look forward to your like.